Was it muted? There it goes. Man, Crisp is kicking my butt right now because Crisp had me muted. But we got that fixed. What's up, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of the Camera Junkie live stream. My name's Luis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie, where I remind you, as always, to upgrade your skills before your gear. We made it. This is episode 250, and that is 250 consecutive episodes of the Camera Junkie live stream. So let's give an applause for that. Right there we go. 250 consecutive weeks. Wow, that is quite a feat, and that's something that I'm proud of, because through the ups and downs and all the differences and all the challenges, we've made this like a weekly thing. And I thank you, as always, for hanging out here and taking the time and hanging out here with me. Well, if it is your first time, welcome. Please be sure to say hello into the chat, and that way we can give you the nice Camera Junkie welcome, put your text on screen, and give you that nice introduction into the crew. Now, for the people who are used to being here, our tradition is that we always go and check out to see who are the first members of the crew hanging out in the chat. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. Lost my mouse here. First was the microphone, then now the mouse. All right. We have Parker Jennings in the house saying hello to everyone. Same as Randy saying hello. Says, I hope everything is getting back to normal, Lewis. Let me put that up there. I'm finishing up normal. That's like, what is normal, right? Currently my father, just for an update, he's at the hospital. He's been there since Tuesday. He had to go into the ICU. His appetite was diminishing. He was barely eating, and I had to make a call, and I'm glad that I did, because like I said, once we admitted him, they put him into ICU, because he's telling me he's fine, but I wasn't seeing that as a fact. So he's been there ever since, and we've just been playing it by ear. So thoughts and prayers for my father, but he's definitely getting the best care that we can give him at the moment, and just looking forward to things to get better from here. But that's where it leads me to that conversation. What is normal? That's really tough to say, because of the simple fact that nothing is the same. So I just say I want to get back to stable, right? And just having things, just all the wrinkles ironed out. And once we're there, we'll be good to go. And like Randy says, don't forget to hit the like button. It's highly appreciated, so please do so. Paul is in the house saying greetings. Says the new normal. Yep, right? That's exactly what it is. But there are bright sides. Like, one of the bright sides is that I have a lot more space. Hey, what's up, Gretchen? She's sneaking in here, saying hi to me and to the crew, obviously, and also to little Aiden. Grandma Goo, he's doing great. He's been eating a ton. Like, he's definitely getting a growth spurt, and he's got me working overtime when it comes to food and food prep. Like, it is just crazy, but I'm excited for it. Another thing is that he's understanding so much, right? So for example, I'm telling him, like, he asks for things, and as I'm preparing them, I'm telling him, hey, just go to your room and wait, and I'll get it to you. And I tell you that boy goes right to his room, and he just waits there. I got the TV set up on the wall for him, so now he's back to his like educational YouTube videos, and yeah, he's in bliss right now. He's having a blast, but like, he's eating a lot and he's growing fast, and I'm just loving it. So that's that. Paul says Gretchen is sleeping with the bears. Oh, that must be nice. We read typos, Paul. Don't worry about that. All right, so let's get to this next thing. What are we doing today? Well, I wanted to show you I got a new intro, and we're going to be doing some new things because I want to switch it up, and I also want to make this a lot more interactive. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to be doing, right? I'm going to be asking Chad GPT some ideas to kind of create more engagement, and something that I want to do is basically create like a weekly like game of sorts. How I'm gonna work that out, I don't know, but obviously I want to implement, like photography or cameras or something in that realm, right? Even if it is just critiquing shots and things like that. So I'm thinking about some ways to just expand and have more fun with the live stream, because I always enjoy your company, but I also want to make this the most fun for you as well. So that's stuff to come into the future. Today, I was saying, I got some, to sprucing up a bit of the studio and making some things. One of the things that I finished up is that, like, I don't think that was up last week. Was it? Let me know if that was up last week, if I was talking about that. The one thing that I set up this week is these lights right here. So those are looking really nice. I'm liking the touch, especially with the colors. And then the rest is basically what I've done throughout the rest. Now, I wanted to add a new angle, and what I had been doing was I had the iPhone XR. But like some of you know, I'm going to be getting a new iPhone, so most likely that iPhone XR is probably going to be leaving the chat pretty soon. So instead of adding another one of the phones as that, I can still do it and have it as a floater, just maybe another camera to add. I'm really like, I just had kind of like this funny little brainchild, and I'm like, oh my god, I could make this super easy and a lot of fun. So let me show you the angle that I'm talking about. So we got back to the PTZ. Oh, what happened? Definitely. And that's the shot that I wanted to have there. But as you can see, that's the OBSBot Tiny 2. And now there's a much more detailed and better shot of my behind the scenes. This obviously looks to me 10 times better than the iPhone XR. And let me show you what I mean. So compared to that, which is a good shot, from the iPhones, but this to me, just, it looks so much better. I could definitely use this even for my own content as like one of the other shots, right? How did I accomplish this? Well, this is the OBSBot Tiny 2 Lite, and I did not want to run an extra long USB that was like running from the floor. So I remembered that on the back side over here, right? Let me go back to camera A. Over here, I have the Mac Mini, and I have that completely separate. So what I did is I connected it to that, and I just logged in through the browser to my interview mode. And I just came in as a separate camera, and now I have complete control over what's over there. And, with the hand gestures and, being able to self-track, I'm able to control the camera pretty well and set up my shots, and then be able to kind of like, use it on the go. So now I have that as a secondary shot, and I'm just using interview mode to bring in that shot, which is giving me that new angle, which I'm liking a lot. And once again, if I wanted to get that wide shot, right now we're wide, and we can still compare it to the iPhone XR. Bit different, but as you can see with those hand gestures, you have the ability to control it. So now that might be a permanent fixture there, because I'm really liking the way that this is looking. So that's one of the cameras that I added. On top of that, I also have the top down, which is the way that I've set it up here. my A shot. And now what I was thinking, right? This is the idea, is that I'm gonna get like stupid crazy with one of these shots. I'm thinking, because of my layout and the way that this is set up here, and it's pretty much like an open concept. Uh, I'm thinking I'm gonna set a really long telephoto lens in the kitchen, right? I'm just gonna set it up in the kitchen and telephoto to get this side as like the B camera and connect it through my laptop, just the same way that I did the interview mode, right? Just set up another camera with a and you know, and just for fun, for you know, S and G's on the Saturday night, we can set that up over there and have, like, you know, a lot of fun with a lot of different lenses. So I'm thinking my vintage lenses, obviously I could just set those up. um that's the one that I'm really thinking about. Here, let me go grab it to show you. See, and now we're gonna go back to the top down, and this is what I'm talking about. This is a quanta ray, right? Correctly, excuse me. Yeah, it's a quanta ray, which is basically a Tamron, but it's a quanta ray. This is a Canon mount. I've talked about this lens a long time ago, but this is a 135 up to 400. And I tell you, at 400 millimeters, this thing looks so good. Like, all my photos just looked so good. Uh, and I adapt this to the Sony camera, throw it on a tripod, and we can. Well, I'm gonna do it probably for next week. You know, so stay tuned. So if you haven't done so, subscribe so that you don't miss that. Let me see what you guys are saying over here in the chat, but I'm thinking that's gonna be a lot of fun. Gretchen says, I've had just enough bars to connect from the forest since the campground in Montana. Force from the Forest Service campground in Montana. Tell Aiden I'm really proud of him. Yes, Paul, Bear Country. Super cool. Randy says, I like the iPhone as the mobile camera instead of being wired. Possibilities are endless. Yes, I said weird, but the text on my teleprompter, because it's so far away now, is like very tiny. So I might need to, you know, pump that up. Actually, you know what? Let me try something here. Nope, that did not help. I think that's as big as they get for the teleprompter. I just might need to get a bigger teleprompter now that I have more space. So let's see what we do. Jeremy's in the house. He says, yo, yo, yo. Gretchen says, telephoto from the kitchen, the long shot. Yeah, exactly. All right, so you're the first one to notice it, Jeremy, because it's so funny that I was gonna see how long I could ride it out, because I think this is like the third week that I've switched the cameras from 4K 30 to 1080 60, and that's the whole thing. Like, I'm kind of cheating it because I'm running the camera at 1080 60, right? Yeah, at 1080 60 frames a second, and that's how it's going into the computer. But I'm also broadcasting at 1440 60, right? So I'm broadcasting not in 4K, but the highest format at 60 frames per second. So that way it's just giving a bit higher quality than 1080. So it's, I guess, a bit of upscaling. And obviously, what I'm doing is that I'm maximizing the sensor output. So this way I'm getting the most out of the full frame camera. And this is for the time being because I'm still not sure if I'm even gonna leave this camera here, because this is the A7R Mark II. That is getting long in the tooth, how they say. So it still works fine, but there are some upgrades that I just do want now because I have the space and like that. Like I could throw this guy in the kitchen with that telephoto lens, and we could be rocking and rolling, you know. So I'm just gonna be having a lot of fun with it. But funny, you're the first one to notice it. See, 144060. What am I viewing? Exactly, but it's actually looks very well, right? And if you get the right lens and everything like that, I think it looks good. And like I said, he's the first one to mention it, but I think this is like the third week that I've done this. So, yep, that's exactly where we're at. Well, to get into some more news, right? Some more things have happened this week in the camera world, which is I was this close of basically calling today's episode Attack of the Clones, right? Because of the simple fact that that's all I've seen. All I've seen is FX30 clones and everybody claiming is the FX3 killer. Like we were in Brandon Washington's live stream on Fridays, and if you're not there, you're missing out because man, that's another place that I have a whole lot of fun. And it's just, like digging in and just, talking smack with your boys, just your friends. And we have Canon fanboys and Lumix fanboys, and I'm always representing Sony. And it's all fun and games, it's all fun and jest. So it's just so much fun to just throw, like we're hazing each other in the chat. So if you haven't done so, check that out. It's just so much fun on a weekly. um, so yeah, so everyone's talking about these new cameras, the C50 from Canon, right? Which Peter McKinnon and a variety of different content creators on the platform made videos about this. And the reason why I mentioned Peter is because that's like what he says in like the first 15 seconds of the video is like, this is the FX3 killer. And I'm excited for it because this is just one of these leapfrog moments. But I gotta mention to you guys, it did take them long enough. Now, the other clone of the FX3 that I'm also mentioning is the Nikon ZR. Now, if you're also unaware, just quick recap. Nikon bought the company Red Cinema Cameras, and ever since then they came out with a Komodo, I believe, with a Nikon Z mount on it, which has autofocus. So it's just a nice piece of kit, But it's the merging of the like hybrid mirrorless world with the cinema world, and this is their first camera out of kind of that out of that like merger. So I was also paying attention to Brandon Washington because he actually had hands on with it, uh, um, just like a bunch of other creators. But with his point of view, is saying that it wasn't red enough for him, and that's what he was expecting. But if he would have gone into it thinking like, oh, this is a Nikon camera, not a red camera, that he might have thought of the camera different. So that's just a good way of looking into it. Like if you've never had a red camera and you don't know what that world is about, now this might be a really interesting piece of tech for you, because there are some little like dustings of like the color grading and something like that that you would get from the red cameras. But that's, I would also think, mostly in post production. Mostly what this is just another FX3 style hybrid, camera that has good autofocus, but is designed with that build in mind. So it's just like another clone. And this one definitely, I wouldn't say would be better than the FX3, but might be more enticing to a lot of people because of its price point. I believe it's like at like $2,000 or $2,200, if I'm not correct. You know what? Let me go ahead and just double check so I don't put my foot in my mouth, because this is a very quick search with B&H, Better in Homes. Shout out to Miss Diana Gladney, and the shoot was so cool. She was in Doc Rock's live stream today. It's been a long time. So she says, for all of us who shop at B&H, when the credit card bill comes and your wife sees it, tell her that B&H stands for Better in Homes, you know, and it's something that you needed for a fence for the house, just to get you by on that. Okay, so the C50, let's see the pre-order on this. This Canon EOS C50 full frame cinema camera, Canon RF, is going for $3,899, and I believe that includes the top handle, which is another thing that everyone was boasting about, like, oh, it has, like, you know, built-in XLR and everything like that. I'm like, yep, and a fan, and this is just a retention camera, honestly, for anyone who's in the Canon universe. So you know what, let's go ahead, let's show you what I'm seeing, right? Oh no, you weren't supposed to see that. That's what I keep for the end of the show. See, that's what we're supposed to be seeing. Just avert your eyes, just rewind that, and you didn't see what you saw. The Jedi mind trick, right? Okay, so this is where we're at. The Canon EOS C50 Cinema with the top handle, and is going for $38.99. So let's go ahead and just add this over here. Here, let's do the FX3. Oh, that price went up. That's a tariff hike right there, hands down. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that, right? Then over here, what was the other one? Oh, the ZR. See, like, the price is what would get a lot of people into this ecosphere, because I gotta be honest with you, like, that price is pretty enticing. And the reason why I say it is because I have something actually over here. Let me go get it. This little guy right here that makes it worth it for me. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about this Nikon to Sony adapter. Now I got the newer. There's another brand, I forgot which one it was that came out, but I've had no issues with my setup at all. But this allows me to use all of my Sony lenses on Nikon cameras that have the Z mount, like this one. So I'll be able to throw that guy on there, right? And then use all of my Sony lenses. Yeah, this is not bad. But you see, like, for example, like me, I'm someone who doesn't, I'm not familiar with the Red camera workflow, right? I'm just not. Right, like a camera with that, like, might need a crew and things like that. I have my first Red, which I'm working on getting up and running. But now that I'm here, that's something that's more feasible. I need to start with a lens. I need to get a PL lens. Maybe I should start with an adapter for the cameras that I have now. Oh, thank you, Randy. Yeah, the Megadapt is the brand. Oh, Viltrox has one too. You see, that's another good brand. Check out the prices on those. But this camera is, like I said, is pretty interesting. Just like the FX series of cameras. Ooh, this is interesting. It has a micro SD card slot. This is something that, who was it that tried it prior to this? Now, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is something that I said that should be in a lot of these cameras, and I said this years ago, right? Like, we can go back to one of these live streams, and I was like, if you have a camera and you're just using the second card slot as a redundancy, right? Or as a like a dump, right? Why not add a micro SD and throw like another terabyte in there, and you're gonna have space for days. I said, because you're not always using the camera. So you see, like, for example, right here, this one, what did it show here? Let's see. 128 gigabyte. You see, I wouldn't do something that small. Like, that would make no sense, right? What I would do with something like this is that I would, like I just mentioned, I would have like the 320 gigabyte of the, which one's that? That's the Type B. Yeah, I think that's CF Express Type B. Let me make sure. Let's see exactly what are the specs here. So it's a full frame sensor, 24 megapixel, dual base. Hey, 6400 is not bad. 800 and 6400, that's not bad for dual base. Micro HDMI out. It does ProRes RAW 12-bit, which is good. 12-bit imagery. That's gonna look very nice. Which is why, the thing that you didn't see prior, like, hey, what's up, Drill? Talking about the Attack of the Clones, about all these cameras trying to be the FX30. The FX3 wannabes. I was also mentioning your show with Brandon on Fridays, and that if you're not there talking smack on Fridays, you need to get in there because it's just so much fun. Okay, so let's go ahead and yeah, let's see, what was I looking for? I was looking for the card slot. Oh, it does 32-bit. Oh, I think that's right. I think it does 32-bit float internal, which, okay, sounds great, but we will still need to hear what it sounds like. It's like I always say, specs on a sheet are always great, but it's the final result. And you know what? And Jarrell just talking about that because he got himself hands on the flagship camera from Canon to just use, I believe, for a bit. And he was just saying there's just some special sauce in it that makes it look different. And I've been seeing the work that you've been putting on IG, brother, and I can concur. Like, those shots look really, really good. So yeah, so there's always a special sauce when it comes to this, which is also something that Brandon was mentioning, that Red cameras, actually, their technology has always been in the sensors. So this is just still the same sensor, so that's why it's not exactly like a Red camera, which is probably why he's not getting that Red workflow. I'm missing this. Hold on, I'm talking too much. Let me find what I'm looking for. Okay, so I was right. A CF Express Type B. So going back to it. Oh, let me see what he says. Hey, talking about that, I mentioned it before. Just keep my father in the prayers. He needs it. He's been in the hospital since Tuesday. He was in the ICU. He's out, and now they're just monitoring, but we're playing it by ear. So thoughts and prayers for Pops. Hey, it says the Thrilling Traveler says hi from where? Adaman, I think that I said that right. Adaman Islands. Okay, so he's saying hi from the Adaman Islands. welcome. And everyone say what's up to Thrilling Traveler. Obviously, it's your first time here, and welcome to the live stream. We do this every single week, every Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today has been episode 250, and that's consecutive in a row. So we're just having a lot of fun here, hanging out and nerding out about cameras. So going back to what I was saying, keeping it, on the track, is that a long time ago, before we saw this, I had mentioned it on a live stream. I was like, if we're just looking for redundancy in these cameras and you need an extra card slot, instead of building this whole huge one, just build a micro SD in there, just so that you could add like another terabyte, another 512 in there. And instead of saying like, oh, I'm out of space on my camera, you have your CF Express at maybe 160 gigs, or something a little bit higher than that. You'll be able to offload that. Might it take a little bit of time? Sure. But you could also have a system where it automatically just starts backing up what you have on your CF Express to that secondary micro SD anytime that you're not using the camera. Like whenever it's idle, hypothetically, it's never really idle, and it starts doing that like automatic backup and allowing you, with a simple like icon to let you know that that item has already, or that file, that picture or video has already been like saved to that little micro SD, allowing you to just delete it on the fly and say like, oh yeah, all of these have already been backed up, and you can feel secure. And that was my idea a long time ago, like a long time ago. And if I remember correctly, I believe Fuji was the first one to put a micro SD card in one of their more recent cameras, and I was like, whoa, let's see how this goes. And it wasn't like, it was kind of like a flop. Like, I don't think they implemented any of those types of technologies of like how I just mentioned, of having it like automatically back up and letting you know that it's already been backed up to that micro SD. So for that reason, I'm thinking this camera, if it could implement something like that, would be awesome. Like if you're doing an event and you're doing run and gun video, there's a lot of times where you're not actually recording. So in that time, you could automatically just be backing up to a slower card, because obviously it's not going to run at the speeds of a CF Express Type B. So that's something that you can do. All right, let's go ahead and check out. But you see, like all of these things, like, it has some limitations, but this seems like a really viable choice. And one of the things that everyone's talking about is the extra large screen. So if you don't have the budget right away for a monitor to add to this setup, you can rock this 4-inch screen and see something a little bit better. But I digress. I'm a big fan of monitors. They make a huge difference. Okay, so now, Jarrell, we're here to talk about what you like, man. So, right up your alley. Let me see. He says, "Thank you, brother. The R1 has spoiled me, and I have to send it back soon." Yep, but it changes you, because look, once you send it back, you'll really know if it's something that you want, or if it's something that's like kind of just like a fad. Like, you'll get back to your regular equipment, and if you have like a yearning, like it's happened to me, and that's when I was like, oh, I need this. Like, it's not like it's just a want. Like, now it's kind of like I was saying, that red workflow. Like, I've never done the red workflow, so I wouldn't know what it is. But if you're there, you kind of don't want to go back, because there's certain luxuries that are allotted to that workflow. All right, so now let's check the specs on this guy per Mr. B&H, Better in Homes. Also, raw 12-bit. We're getting right off the bat. Full frame CMOS sensor. Image stabilization, no, but that's something that I don't think is necessary if we're doing cinema cameras. 34.2 megapixel. No ND, no CC. Stills and video. rolling shutter, shutter angle. Okay, that's a pretty decent slow-mo. Dynamic range 16 stops. Okay. So you see, that's another thing that when you look at it there, like that looks amazing. But we'll see when Gerald gets his hands on it. Like he'll run it through the test and tell you exactly how many stops you're getting. But if you get anywhere near 16, you're gonna be doing very, very well. Okay, and we have all the codecs: 10-bit 422, 10-bit 420. .264. It doesn't have .265, which is the newer codec. Okay, but see, like those aren't. That's nothing like the end of the world. Hey, what's up, Logan? Says I want this screen on every camera going forward. He's talking about that 4-inch screen. I gotta tell you, if you rock Sony cameras, I have absolutely just. I've gone wireless with my screens. So this is crazy. I've mentioned it on the live stream, but the best monitor that I have for my cameras is my iPhone. The monitor and control app allows me to do so much. And this with like all the nits brightness and like this is an amazing screen. It gives me great detail and I have wireless control, meaning I can start and stop the recording, do like aperture adjustments, touch to focus, rack focus, everything right from the phone. So I just got one of these like newer magnet mounts. Let me see. I should have it around here. I'm not gonna get too lost in it, but iPhone for the win. If you're rocking Sony cameras, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. It's changed my monitor game completely, especially for all of my cameras. And if you're a solo content creator, I also advise it because I did that in one of my videos. When you're shooting B-roll of yourself, it's really hard for you to control, to be in front and behind the camera. So what I did is that I actually rigged up one of my rig junkie rigs, and I put the monitor and control to control the camera that was on the tripod, but I placed it on the camera that I was, trying to highlight. So I turned on the record from the, monitor and control while I'm in front of the camera, but controlling the camera that's, I'm supposed to be behind. So that way I was able to look at the actual monitor of my hands, but recording in a third person view and making sure that I had the camera and everything in frame. Highly recommend it. Randy says Nikon ZR and the 32-bit hot shoe mic are about the same price of the FX2. Very interesting. Because that makes more sense. You know what? Let me go ahead and I'm gonna pull up the information on the FX2 here on B&H as well, because I was just going by what Mr. McKinnon said, and saying that this is the FX3 killer. Yeah, but this still took a price hike. But we'll compare this to the ZR, which is a little bit better there. So let's go ahead and check those specs there. Right. And now this is the FX3, more price, range around this one. Actually, you know what? This is the FX3. With the top handle, if it's here, is gonna what? Let's see if it even has availability.
No. For FX3 kit, no. No top handle availability. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so that is basically $4,100. This with the top handle. Right now, if you don't have either or, this will be the kind of better bet. But there are some drawbacks to this, and I'm gonna mention them because it's just the him what's hindering Canon, in my opinion, is like one of the only things. Let me see what you guys are saying. I mean, Gretchen says drill R1 envy from the Canon girl. Yeah, you got another Canonite right there. What's up, Kevin? Says try chatting via computer and something goofy going on over there from the phone. So from the phone it is. Okay. All right. So now going back to this. Where's my mouse cursor? All right. There we go. I like this one. All right. So now let's go to the specs of the C50. Canon RF full frame CMOS 34.4 or 34.2 megapixels dual base 800 to 6400. Yeah, these are the same. So now going back to what I was saying, why there's some limitations to the Canon ecosystem is their lens options, right? Now, if you're going to use this camera and you don't care about the autofocus whatsoever because you're going to have PL mount lenses on it and everything's going to be manual focus, or you know, if you're Mr. Make Art Now, Josh Yo, and you're connecting a LiDAR system to it, like that's completely different. That's completely separate. But if you're using this as a camera with autofocus, then that's when you're going to have limitations because it is a full frame. So that means there's no third party options here. And the lenses that Canon has available in the RF series are a bit pricey, right? And I'm not saying that they're bad. They're actually amazing glass, and that's where I've always give Canon the nod because I think that they're more of a lens company than a camera company. Their glass is always what made the difference. Is actually one of the only reasons why I even switched to Sony, because once I was able to adapt my favorite lenses that I had from my Canon ecosystem onto them, I saw the potential for Sony cameras because the limitation of them back then was the glass. So I was able to say, you know what, I'm going to hybrid this, right? And I'm going to run this Sony slash Canon setup. So Drell, if you weren't here for it, this is one of my favorite lenses. Let me go back to the top down. This is my Tamron slash Quantaray APO 135 to 400. I believe it's a variable aperture. If I remember, I think it's f4 to 5.6. So 5.6 at the 400. Man, I'm telling you, this thing gets amazing images. And the problem with this lens, because I bought this lens for, believe it or not, I think it was $20 on the used market. The reason why is because once Canon went digital, EOS digital, this is a film lens. So even though it has contacts for autofocus, the one thing that it never had to do was transmit EXIF data. It didn't have to transmit information of where the aperture was, or like what, you know, like what millimeters it was set. You know, like it didn't have to remember any of that because this was electronic autofocus to a film camera. So the backing of this, this lens was for a film, and there's no EXIF data that gets recorded onto a film strip. So it was never needed. And whenever you would attach this lens, this amazing piece of kit, to a newer digital EOS Canon camera, it will give an error 99 code because the camera itself was requiring all of this EXIF data that it could not get from this lens. So because it rendered it useless for Canon users, I picked it up on the used market for $20. And what I did was put my adapter to it. That's the unlock code. The adapter, understanding that it didn't have this information, kind of is able to just transmit its own EXIF data and adapt it to my Sony cameras. So what couldn't be used on Canon cameras was perfect for my Sony setups. And this is like something that I'm going to be messing around with, because I think I'm going to be setting up a B camera in the kitchen over there at like 300 or 400 millimeters to give me a side shot. So that's why this is here. But it goes to show you that I still have my old Canon lenses and the ones that I still can utilize. And I absolutely believe that that's where Canon, holds their, their chops. Their lenses and the gear that you can get for that ecosystem has always been great. But once you've gone into the RF side over here, unfortunately, you're kind of limited to the lenses that you can get, and there's really no like inexpensive options. So that's the one thing that I would say, like, yeah, this is a great camera if you're already in this ecosystem and you have these lenses. Then yes, this is the retention, because the enticing golden carrot that would be moving a different ecosystem to get into something like an FX3 camera that's like amazing in low light, but it's a completely different, you'd have to seriously think about, what am I going to do with all this glass? And a lot of times the glass, at least for me, like I say, glass before ass, the lenses are more important than the camera bodies. You have sentimental value with like all the shots that you've gotten from this lens, because you just love how creamy, or how how bokeh, or whatever is that feature that you love about that lens, like yeah, like Peter McKinnon's video, people were talking about the swirly bokeh backgrounds and what lenses they were using on it, right? That's just for us photo and video nerds. So let me go ahead and change back to this shot over here. Perfect. So that's my thought on this camera here, right? It's an amazing piece of tech, but once again, it's a clone of the FX3 style body. I take nothing away from it, because look at these things being rigged out. I would love to get my hands on it and make a a rig junkie setup for it, right? Just like I have for the Sony camera. So I'll see about doing something like that. Yeah, I actually like the top handle style as well, because that top handle having the front and the back is going to be also honestly more traditional to the style, or the style design style that Canon has always rocked in their the C200, C400 cameras as their top handles, but in that FX style body. So that's my thought on that camera. Now this one definitely took a price increase, guys, and without the top handle, like, and you see, that's exactly what I mean. Like, see this top handle right here, it has only one point of like holding the weight, so it seems more fragile. Like, I haven't actually, like, I can imagine there's some people who have broken this. I haven't broken mine, but I also understood that I needed to reinforce it, which is something that I built into one of my kits. You understand, to make sure that it makes it more sturdy, for that exact reason. So that's one of the, I think, flaws in the design style. But honestly, Sony could come out with a new top handle design that's like closed looped, so to speak, just to make it sturdier, and that fixes that problem. Probably why they're selling the FX3 without it, just so that they get people ready for the new design. Okay, so that's the FX3 now. Back to the ZR, comparing this to the FX2. Let's see that before we finish things off here. This is a 24 megapixel. The FX2 is a 33. It's a 33 megapixel, even though it says 35 here. Full frame, you see, effective 33 megapixels. I'm interested to see, honestly, that second card slot. What card slots does this have? Okay, but it does have 2 slots. CF Express Type A and SD. So you see dual base, it's at 804,000. Codecs, this does have the 265. 10-bit 422, 420. Very important. See, 16-bit raw video output and 10-bit via HDMI. So that's like what we would use for, or I would use for, like a live stream. That's where I like to get nerdy, to see exactly what I'm gonna get out of it, right? That's just me being selfish. I'm like, how would I use it? Forget the rest. I like this song, but it's just too slow. And then another mellow song. Let's get something. All right. It's nothing gangster, but it's at least it's upbeat. It's a chunky boy, this C50, man. That's all I'm gonna say there. That boy is definitely chunky. And that's the other thing about the FX3 or the FX2, that, even though everything's comparable and things like that, they're still the smallest ones, and that 4-inch screen makes the camera look deceptively small from what I've heard. And that is just a lot bigger in hand that you would expect. And that's for the Nikon ZR. But I do know that the FX30, even though it's the FX3, even though it's a chunky boy, it's not big overall. So the height and everything, it's more like a tightly, like a nice little brick, so. You see, yeah, like if you look at this has a 4-inch screen, but because of it, it basically doesn't allow anything in the back of the camera. See, like you just have this one little. I'm trying to move this. There we go. See, you just have that one little dial and 2 buttons. Like that's really nothing on the back. And you really think about it, that's like nothing on the back. Which could be good, because that leads, honestly, to better rigging. Like riggability, because, you could put a lot of things right up to it just as long as you flip out the screen, because you won't be blocking anything. And this is just from my experience of designing these rigs, with having the buttons that are on the back of the camera still accessible and having that in mind. If you don't have that, like honestly, you could take up the majority of that space and just fill that up with cable management, you know, and you'll be good to go. Very, very interesting, you see? Yeah, and the other thing that makes the proportions look like it's smaller is that the Z mount is huge. The Z mount is the biggest mount like on the market, I believe. If not the RF, but they're there like neck and neck. So it makes everything of this look smaller than what it is. All right, so that's where we're at. Those are my 2 cents on this week's Attack of the Clones. All right, and that's the music. But now that we're here, right? Let's go ahead and just drop this. And we're going to do Cities Gone, channels that I think you should go and watch. And that is none other. See? And I had it. Let's just minimize this. And then open that, right? And there we go. And we have Mr. Mark Bone. So the reason why I chose Mark is because I think he had the best video demonstrating the potential of that Nikon ZR, at least from the ones that I saw. So I think he got the best footage up there in Canada. So that's why I decided to highlight him today. If you haven't heard of Mr. Mark Bone, let me be the one to introduce you to this, Canadian, right? He's from Canada, Canadian filmmaker, and I really do consider him a filmmaker. We're lucky that he makes videos on YouTube just the same way to share a lot of his information, insight, and expertise. And I always take like his information very I guess to heart, because I think he gives a lot of great information. And as you can see, this is just one of the videos here demonstrating the power of this Nikon ZR camera. So absolutely recommend you checking him out. Wow, that's 3 years ago, that video he made with Mr. McKinnon as well. He's an amazing, like I said, filmmaker and content creator. So if you haven't heard of him, go ahead and check out Mr. Mark Bone, and check out his Nikon ZR video. Is the one that's sitting right here. It's a really good watch and shows you exactly what is the potential of this new ZR camera. So that's this week's Cities God channels that I think you should go and watch. And we did it. Bam. Once again. This was episode 250, guys, and we did it. So if you're wondering what that's about, that's 250 consecutive weeks of the Camera Junkie live stream without skipping a beat. Through rain or shine, through ups and downs, through all the challenges that life throws at us, this is something that you can count on, because you guys are the ones that make it happen. So if you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and mark it down on your calendars. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday night, the Camera Junkie live stream. We're going to be hanging out here. We're going to be talking cameras. We're going to be doing setups. We're going to be changing everything out, and you're going to see me do it on the spot. So everything that we implement, we're going to be doing it like the intro. I switched it up and, giving you more of a behind the scenes and adding new angles and new cameras. And maybe next week, you might see the appearance of this 135 to 400 make it on the stream, and see how we can mess around with that just the same way. So if you enjoyed this, like I said, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe. It's free and it's highly appreciated. But let me go ahead and check out to see what are the last messages that we have going out here. Oh, Gretchen was actually shutting down the campsite, so she's just wishing everyone a good night. Oh, that's exactly what I was thinking. Gretchen said, telling me to rent one of the cameras so that I can make a rig for it. Exactly. And yes, and now we're getting the weekend. So yes, hey, thank you for subscribing and welcome to the crew. Histography through my lens. Ooh, I gotta check out your channel just the same, man. Well, welcome, and we'll be seeing you next week with everyone else. So I'm really excited for that. Here, as we, take our, how can you say, we're just adding little bits and making it, 1% better. The Studio 2 is coming along. I have my Ecamm lamp. I'm really stoked about the way that that came out, and the way that it's in the corner, that it throws like the light, and it almost looks like this Ecamm logo like arrow. I'm absolutely loving the way that that's coming out. So just adding little bits. We added the little lights over here, and I'm fixing up my status board over there with all my cameras and lenses, and just getting, like I said, just getting 1% better every single time. So I can't wait to see all of your smiling faces right here next week as we do it all over again. So as always, take care of yourselves and each other, and I can't wait to see you here next time. And until then, talk to you.